everybody, I am not Morgan. My name is Gabrielle Gardner, and I am filling in this week for Morgan. And I am here with Mark, who many of you probably know better than I do. We have just met briefly. And I am a medium. So many of my clients know me as Gabrielle the Medium. I have been seeing, feeling, and hearing the souls of those who no longer reside in a physical body for as long as I can remember, essentially since birth. And that's what I do. So I see, in addition to people, I see angels, and I see spirit guides, and a few other things. And I am an author, and I channel a collective of sentient beings called Ayana. So there's a whole lot there, but yeah, that's what I do. You want to tell them a little bit about yourself, Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a shaman / schizophrenic, mystic, strange person with a very miscellaneous list of skills that I've acquired over the last several years. And I was on a previous show, and sorry, being awkward. And yeah, schizophrenic crazy man.
Thank you for introducing yourself. So one of the things that I have noticed so I'm pretty new to working with other people who have gifts with spirit. I did a lot of what I've done on my own for a very long time, and I just got connected to you and other people like you in the last probably year or two, and what I'm really seeing is that we each experience spirit in a very different way.
Yes.
And so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit. I think that this is something a lot of people who are starting their what we call ascending or awakening are curious about, if what we see is the same or if it's all different. And I was just wondering if you could share some of the things you see and feel, and then I'll answer the same question.
I'd like to preface that with what I say to people who have family members or friends who are developing schizophrenia or having spiritual awakenings, is that what we experience is always real. Mm-hmm. What we think about what we experience is not always accurate.
It's a great way to say
so
it.
we get lost, we get overwhelmed, and we get reactive to things, and we get kind of muddled or lost or confused or scared, and that's where the problems lie. But what people are experiencing is always real. They might be dreaming and awake at the same time, but in the same sense that a nightmare is visceral and heavy, and if you're spiritual, it takes place on another layer of reality. Mm-hmm. What you are having an experience. You can't just say like, oh, that's not real, or this is real, or that's not real. It's like, to me, it's all real. There's just so many ways to experience it. An X-ray image of somebody's skeleton is real just because it's not less real because I don't have X-ray vision.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think that's a really good point, too, because when I was young growing up, I saw a lot of things that other people can't see. And so I questioned that, and I still continue to question, even doing what I'm doing. And I think that need for validation is just a human need we have. And we want to know that our experience is shared. And I think that what the point you're making is that it is shared. And that's what a lot of people need to hear.
I would add to that, we also live in a very highly politicized world where you're either a Republican or a Democrat. You're not both. So everybody's like trying to figure out like which side are you on.
Yeah, everything's dualistic.
So if you give somebody information or perspective that they don't have, they get it. They fall into that paradigm of, okay, do I have to defeat your position or concede and lose the battle, And if you mm-hmm. give people permission to be different, they will very often reciprocate. If you say like, oh, you don't have to agree with me, and the fact that you have a different perspective is wonderful, mm-hmm. Then people, it kind of like eases that tension, and people don't feel like they have to either convert you or be converted by you. Mm-hmm. And it allows you to be weird and different, and it be okay.
Yeah. Have you met a lot of people who are ready for that, or did you receive that?
If I engage with people in a way that doesn't have those kinds of ego politics, people usually are relieved not to have to engage with me in that in the other way, to not to have to be political.
Yeah.
And it's like religion and politics are the two things you're like forbidden to talk about in a like a job. I've always broken that rule, but I also from an early age learned diplomacy and learned how to talk about an issue and be like, oh no, it's okay, you don't have to agree with me. It's cool. Like if I'm challenging you, I don't mean any disrespect. To me, that's how we refine our ideas. I want you to challenge me. I don't want you to like throw rocks at me.
Yeah.
But I want you to challenge me, and that's one of the things I love about science and this philosophy of science is that it's that attitude of like check your coat or your ego at the door like it's your jacket or your coat.
Yeah.
And I'm still wearing mine. But.
Yeah, I for sure agree with you on the point that being challenged is a way where we can expand our own thinking and our own energy. So every time someone has come to me and said, explain that, what are you seeing? What's going on with, what you're feeling? I actually learn more about what I'm feeling by expressing it. And I think that's a huge component of spiritual dialogue and meeting people who are in the same kind of, whether it's an actual field of study or a field of just, enjoyment. I think finding people who are willing to have the conversation. I will say, I don't want to go too far into politics, but I think on a spiritual level, what I'm getting from a lot of the collective messages I receive from Ayana is that one of the biggest dangers to our society today is to not be able to sit at a table with people who do not have shared opinions or shared knowledge. And so the cancel culture, any of that spirit is very much showing that some of the best solutions and the way we can make it through these discrepancies and these disagreements is by sitting down at a table and having conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody once said we have the option of conversation or violence.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
I prefer conversation.
Yeah.
Although oftentimes, especially in politics, conversation and violence are the same thing. But I prefer like sports where we're like all trying to build each other up rather than knock each other down.
Yeah. Politics, skilled use of blunt objects kind of thing. So I will say I haven't received too much backlash from the political side of things, but I think that as I've kind of stepped into my spiritual experiences, religion is where I've hit a few barriers, and religion is a beautiful thing for so many people. It's the barrier to being accepting of any way other than the way that you know. And I find that even in the spiritual community sometimes is that once you have what I'm getting at is that we see and feel very different things, but both of us are open to hearing each other's experiences, and I think that's where a lot can be gained.
I agree. Although, I will say that religion, and I was an atheist for 15 years, so I have religion plenty, and I totally relate to those sentiments and everything. But there are some positives to that. One is it can foster a kind of innocence that people have because it's like a less volatile, less complex kind of incubation place where people can just be like have a kind of simpler interaction on some levels. But it relies on this kind of like naive buffer zone, and so there's the danger of going too long and being too naive and being unprepared for the world. It's sort of like the princess syndrome where people it's like, how do you protect your kids while preparing them for the world outside of their safe bubble? And that's a very complicated thing,
Yeah.
It's like we have to like all be warrior monks almost, to be capable of defending ourselves and also not harming each other.
Yeah, so kind of going off of the protection thing and protecting yourself, you're in terms of kind of collective and societal, but I wonder what strategies have you found for protecting yourself on a spiritual level for people who are kind of just stepping into this? I wonder if you could provide anything that you've found to be grounding, which you can even share what grounding is.
It means a lot of things to different people.
Sure. So what's your take on it?
I want to say I'm a bit of an oddball as far as spirituality goes. I like I said, I was an atheist in a very Christian culture. And then I only started to become spiritual once the culture started getting more secular. So I've always kind of gone the other way.
Yeah.
And so, like, grounding for most people is channeling spiritual energy into the earth, oftentimes to get rid of energies that they do not want. One aspect that people need to remember is also to add positive energies to alchemize those. It's sort of like if you could imagine a sewer system that has no water in it, it's not going to be an effective sewer system. In fact, it's going to cause more problems than it will solve, because the dilution and the keeping things flowing and keeping, and then the river will thank you too, and so a lot of times I do work dealing with the system that is often neglected by people who are overwhelmed with focusing on their individual part of it. So it's like everybody's flushing the toilets and I'm like cleaning out the sewers and trying to make sure it works. So the methods that I use aren't always applicable for the average person.
Okay.
But for me, there is chakra meditations are extremely useful.
Yeah.
Is it okay to recommend a YouTube clip that I'm not affiliated with? Okay. There's from the show Last Airbender. There's if you look on YouTube, Last Airbender chakra meditation.
Oh, okay.
It's a guru explaining to a child how to unblock and balance all their chakras.
Oh, nice.
And it's one of the most elegant and simple and accurate descriptions I have found about how to do this. And
Very cool.
I call it cleaning the lint trap on your soul. Because what you're doing is you're removing all of the unconscious clutter that distorts your motivations. So you could be doing all the right things, but you're doing it for all these unconscious wonky reasons.
Yeah.
And so you get diminishing returns as your unconscious gets more and more out of whack.
Yeah.
And it tells you layer by layer, this chakra, this layer of consciousness, this layer of consciousness.
That show has some hidden gems in it, for sure. Yeah. So I'll share some of the ways that I've found to be grounding. And one, as you said, is for sure connecting to the earth. Earthing, if you haven't heard of that, is where you literally have contact with the soil, with a part of your body. So a lot of times people take their shoes off, step out into nature, walk on the grass, walk on the dirt, and that really helps you connect to the energies of the earth, which can help you recenter and rebalance and kind of find your center. And then, so again, as a medium who's kind of new to the game, if you will, I've been having these experiences for my entire life, but I'm just now learning to kind of get a hold on it, get a grasp on it. And so I am very still regularly overwhelmed by souls kind of stepping forward and coming through, not necessarily when I ask. So they still can kind of come in when I'm at a store or when I'm at a restaurant. One of the most uncomfortable places is in the car. I'm actually not able to drive very often because a soul will kind of come in from the freeway or a neighborhood close to me, and it takes my focus from the road, and I get anxious because it's usually kind of a death related to something of an untimely passing. So with those, the way that I find grounding, like the most effective grounding, is reconnecting or connecting to my family or connecting to other humans. So kind of tapping back into the human side of life, because I realize I'm really pulled to the spiritual kind of energetic side of things. So truly connecting to other people, I find to be very grounding. And then
you're sort of setting your tone with the universe.
Yeah.
If you're silent or receptive for too long, it's like the universe starts to forget that you're there.
Yeah.
And you just become like a function of the mechanism, and then you're like, well, there's this thing, and the universe is like, oh wait, hang on, you're talking.
Yeah, and I feel myself kind of coming further and further out of my body the more time I spend with people in spirit. And so it's kind of a lot of physical movement gets me back into, or even like Qigong and tapping to like get myself back into my body. That helps a lot. And then I'm a crystal person. I hold rocks. I'm always holding rocks. So I use smoky quartz and citrine, which not necessary, but they're just pieces of the earth that help me kind of stay connected. And I do feel that, I'm a weirdo. I have citrine pieces over all my doorways and smoky quartz by mirrors and all that stuff. So,
if you're going for the title of King of the Weirdos, I'll challenge you on that.
I will never claim I could win that, but yeah. Anyways, a big part of it, I think, is that you have to find what works for you, because just circling back, we all feel different things on different vibration levels, different frequencies, and so while rocks and the earth might work for somebody, for you have your specific methods. So it's kind of a trial and error period, I think.
Well, there's a lot of other methods.
Oh, for sure.
Exercise and diet are big ones for a lot of people.
Yep.
Anything that makes you burn brighter, whether it's positive emotion or being physically active or productive or just doing anything worthwhile. Make somebody smile, pour water on a plant that looks a little parched. Anything that contributes to the universe will enhance your experience.
Yeah, I find that, so I try to be frugivore, so I'm full vegetarian, but I try to be frugivore, which is where it's a 70 to 80% all fruit. Because I feel that fruit is the most electrically alive and most connected to the kind of universe, and there's all sorts of reasons why. But if I go on a fully fruit diet, I'm wacko. I'm like flying so high that I can't stop the kind of spirit energy coming in, and so I've found that I actually have to neutralize that with fats and oils. And so yeah, for sure, diet can play a huge role in what frequency you're resonating at. And generally what we're at is what matches. So if we're high up, we're getting higher things. And then if we're lower, we get less or lower frequency things.
There are lessons and jobs to do at every level,
Sure.
That one of the, as they say, pride goeth before the fall. One of the, pride is the invisible sin, and I only recognize it because I had it for so long, and I still occasionally get sucked into it. But I noticed that, like, even thinking in terms of higher and lower, it's like, if you think about it in evolutionary biology terms, and we evolved like this, not like this.
Great point.
And so higher and lower in the chakras was just fore and aft.
Yeah, it's a linear thought.
Yeah, and so, but we, stand on our hind legs, and we think, we're literally higher than everybody else, and so that goes to our head.
Yeah. So higher to me means things that don't cause any level of suffering to any other being on the planet. So that's kind of my general definition. So if something that enters my vibration brings any sort of pain, suffering, dis-ease, a negative feeling, which is something that is, I call that lower. So this is just my vernacular, which absolutely could be incorrect in your vernacular.
I like the intention.
Yeah. So when I feel those things, I notice that the more I lift myself with music and family and earth and food, the less I receive of those. So that's just my personal perception of what comes in.
It's kind of like thermodynamics, For complexity to be built up on a chemical level over here, something has to be breaking down over here. So like the joy and the peace and the beauty that you get from art, a lot of suffering happened in the life of that musician to make all that beautiful things and to value all of that. They probably had a childhood where they were like, oh my God, music saved my life. I would be in a ditch someplace without it. And so that's like, the sun is tearing apart matter and fusion in the core that allows for the energy for plants to build up complexity here. And so holistically, those opposites are interwoven and part of each other. I respect like wanting more joy than misery.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like higher and lower thinking is a trap. It's a total trap.
Yeah.
It is, and everything, a lot of people focus on what you do. I focus more and more on my spiritual path on why I do. So, like, I can give money to charity out of one intention or another. I can think, oh, well, I'm up here and you're down there, here, and condescend. Or I can just be like, I have the means to help you and I'm blessed for that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I know this may sound like a lecture, but
not at all. No.
From what I know of you, from hearing you speak, I think you understand. I think you know this.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you have that that, well, not to sound too high and mighty, but like pure spirit, or at least strive for that. I just, I only feel the need to say this because I see so much pride in the world, because there's so much insecurity, and people react to insecurity, react to shame, react to trauma, but by trying to be positive, trying to be virtuous, but in a way that's kind of wobbly, where they so often don't have an ideal relationship with those things, you know, and then you get like self-righteousness and high and mighty, and you get rich people that are so afraid of being poor they can't enjoy what they have. And I think even probably 90% of Americans are in that category, where we're so rich and so blessed, and we all feel poor, you know, and so I don't know, it's important, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point. Yeah, I want to for sure clarify, I suppose, that, I don't at all feel that there's any difference in any human being or any spiritual energetic entity, if you will, on, I guess a higher or a lower. To me, it's the frequency that you're resonating at. So a lot of the souls that I meet who have had traumatic passings, violence and abuse and these painful moments truly lower their vibration. And so that's what I see and feel. So this is my perception of a soul's experience. And so if I feel that soul who has taken their life or overdosed, accidentally, or been hit in a car crash and, something very unexpected or heavy, their energy is heavier. And so there's times when that energy leaves an imprint on those around them, or around, the environment, and picking up on that is something that feels just weighty. And so when I say higher and lower, I feel that off of people as well, whether it's an emotional thing, as in depression.
I like light and heavy. I think it's physically more accurate.
Sure.
We're literally like, if you're in outer space, there's like the density level just goes, so like everything's all airy, and then here you go to Earth and everything's all heavier, and then you go deeper into the crust and it gets heavier.
But it's tough to calculate mass when you're talking about souls.
But I think on the quantum level, that you have the same continuum. You have the same spectrum of metaphysical energy, where that's what Eastern medicine teaches, is that the same continuum keeps going into the quantum, to where you have heavier, more sluggish particles that tend to kind of gum up the works, like fat in our system. And then the lighter particles are more fast moving, and so they tend to break up congestion. And so it's literally just physics that's meta. It's physics that's outside of the range of what is objectively observable right now. But that our subtle senses can pick up on. Yeah, see, that's very cool. I love hearing this, because I don't pick up on that in that way. So I see and feel people. I feel souls that are no longer in a body. I do get angels, I call them, so they're sentient beings of light who have never lived a human life, as well as spirit guides, which are people who have lived a human life, but they're with us in spirit just for a greater amount of time to help us through our journey. So when you're talking about energy on this level, it's very different from what I perceive, but we're both kind of tapped into the same thing. I mean, we go with the oneness and the source and all of that. So I just kind of wanted to wrap it back to maybe if you could explain something. I think people really want a bit, and it sounds funny, but a physical or tangible definition, or like a example of what you feel. So, because I think a lot of people are resonating at your frequency right now. There's this collective awakening on the planet. There's a lot of me's, there's a lot of you's. And I want to hear what you hear. I've kind of said, I see the people, I feel their energy, and I want to know what you feel and see. The analogy I use is, it's like you've got like a tub of dishwater full of random things, and you're like trying to figure out what is that? Because I feel so much.
Sure, you're a feeler.
But I don't always know what I'm feeling.
Okay.
And so I have to learn by association, the same way we do with sounds. You have to like see a piece of glass break, and then to associate it with that sound. So I'm essentially blind for the most part in
Okay.
terms of spiritual sight.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can visualize spiritual things. They see angels and ghosts and things like that. There's a person in front of them. I do not. And
Yeah.
so I often don't know what I'm feeling.
Okay.
And I'll feel as though my spirit is pulled in multiple places at once and all kinds of jumbled up stuff. So slowly I have started to build that library of associations, like seeing
Yeah.
this thing break, seeing that thing moves, hearing a bed sheet rustle across a bed and be like, oh, that's the sound of cloth against
Sure.
cloth.
Yeah.
But it's all in this other level of reality.
Yeah.
So it's slow going.
Yeah.
I feel like I've interacted with an insane number of different kinds of beings.
Yeah.
And
Well,
my senses all seem split between multiple layers of reality. So I taste metaphysical energy.
okay.
Like when I do pranic healing, and you do the body scanning thing.
Yeah.
I will feel. I'll feel energy that's hot or cold, separate from the hot or cold in the room.
So I'm going to cut you off real quick because we have 1 minute left, and I want to. I think we should go on in this. This is really cool, but I want to say thank you very much for being a part of this and being so open and for sharing things that I think are going to be very impactful for a lot of people who. Not just associated with spirituality, not just associated with schizophrenia, it's like everything holistically. So I appreciate you being open and taking time to share this, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to sit here with you today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right back at you.
All right. So I was wondering if you want to tell a spiritual joke real quick.
Spiritual joke.
Joke's on us. The time's up.
That works.